Hello, everybody, and thank you for participating in today's manufacturing session. My name is Scott Creighton. I'm the Vice President of Industry Strategy for Manufacturing for our customer experience. And I greatly appreciate you spending time with us today. And it's great to see so many fine customers and names out there that we're familiar with, as well as some new ones joining us today. We have an excellent session for you today. Starting with TSIA CEO, JB Wood. And he's going to be outstanding talking about the future of manufacturing. We have excellent customers that are going to share their stories with you that I'm sure we will all benefit from with Melexis, Badger Daylighting, Canon Medical, and Zebra Technologies. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's turn it over to JB Wood, CEO of TSIA.
Hello, everyone. I'm JB Wood. I'm the President and CEO of the Technology and Services Industry Association. I'd like to spend some time talking about some of the key trends that we're seeing for manufacturers really globally as we're in this incredible period of digital transformation in the industry. TSIA is one of the largest trade associations in the world. We focus on the largest technology, manufacturing, and medical device companies in the world. We're primarily a research organization, so we're under non-disclosure with these companies. They agree to give us a lot of non-public data about their business, and then we look for trends, right? So we try to understand what factors are driving financial performance in various industry sectors, what are the characteristics of top performers, what are the changes in customer demand. And in all of this research has led us to write a number of books about transformations in the industry, mainly in B2B sectors, but also in B2C. And one of the things we want to talk about today is this rise of services in the world of manufacturing. Let's face it, for a long time, manufacturers were able to sort of think about themselves as creators of assets, right? We make a product and then we sell that product to the customer, and it's up to the customer to operate the product, to enjoy the product. If it's a business customer that we're selling to translate that product that we sold to them into some form of competitive differentiation. I mean, in effect, the customer was responsible for taking the product that we manufactured and translating it into a business outcome. That was great. Everybody sort of understood their role. Customers willingly took on that responsibility. But more and more today, we're seeing trends that were, arguably already in place before COVID-19 that has really begun to accelerate in the last 12 months. And one of those is around the increasingly short time frames that products have where they're able to maintain competitive differentiation. Your competition is moving very fast. They, like you, are focusing on agility, and really commoditization is a reality, right? Commoditization and the length of time your products are truly differentiated is shrinking. And so the ability to say, hey, look, we cannot survive on just competitive product differentiation. That trend was already in place. The acceleration of commoditization was there. And digital transformation is just making that happen more and more powerfully than ever before. The second mega trend that was already starting, that is really accelerated in the last 12 months, is more and more companies are interested in paying based on consumption. They don't want to just buy assets anymore. They want to pay for use. They want to pay for results. And that move to service-based pricing models was already underway and is really taking off. And that's happening not just in the world of software, with software as a service as an example, but hardware companies, companies like HPE Their biggest selling product right now is basically data center as a service. And it's not just in tech either. It's moving into, as I mentioned, healthcare, medical devices, where companies hospitals are not buying scanners, they're paying per scan. And in transportation and many other sectors like that. So these two trends are really forcing companies to rethink their own business models. Not just to say, my job is to produce an asset, to manufacture something and turn it over to the customer, but more and more companies are looking at service-based business models where they are playing more of a role in making sure that the asset continues to be operating, not just operational yes or no, but really operating at peak performance, that we're becoming more proactive, more preventative. We're working with our customers on a day in and day out basis to make sure that they're getting the optimal ROI from the asset. And so suppliers are looking at business models where they are living with their products much longer, and they are taking more responsibility for making sure that the business outcomes that the customers hope to achieve are actually being delivered by the supplier, and therefore the customer having to do less and to assume less risk in translating the asset into something of value. This is some fascinating data for the tech industry. And this shows the combined quarterly revenue of the 50 largest technology companies in the world. And if you look at the blue line, that is the sum of all the services revenue in the tech industry for the last 10 years. And the orange line is the sum of all of the product revenue. And you can see the trend that I talked about playing out in very clear terms. Services used to be much smaller as a percentage of total revenue in the tech industry. And beginning in probably 2012, 2013, these two lines passed. And now services are by far the largest driver of overall revenue among not just software companies, but hardware companies around the world. And we're seeing this same trend take place in multiple adjacent sectors that are technology driven. I mean, let's face it, there are very few products today that are being manufactured that don't have a lot of digital capability built into them, right? We can connect to our products even when they're on the customer site. We have technology, sensor capability. We're collecting a trove of data. We're able to analyze this data to help the customer make sure that the asset is performing in top order. But really what it's making us do is to say, we can develop new business models. And all of us our companies have lived through transformations, but mainly they've been transformations in production or transformation in business process. We're now talking about companies who are embracing whole new business models, service-based business models. And that is a completely different world, right? That is a world where you're looking at revenue that comes in over a long period of time, where there are concepts of renewal, of subscription, of consumption. And these are really forcing companies to build new digital capabilities, to enable their workforce to perform tasks they didn't used to have to perform, to be able to have offers that used to not be part of their portfolio, and to deal with limitations. Let's face it, for many years, and if you think about all of the base of your customers and all of the equipment that's out there, a lot of that equipment that you've manufactured is on the customer site. Maybe it was shipped before you had a lot of connectivity, and now you're struggling with how do we adequately connect to those devices. Often the device, the equipment was sold by a channel partner, and so maybe You don't even know who the end customer of that is. And those are legitimate challenges. But as companies are moving more into this, as a service world and driving up their services revenue, they're really having to figure out how to overcome these challenges in new ways. And you could sort of simplify this journey into saying, hey, look, we've always been in the world of services. Service in itself is not a new concept. But maybe it's something we were not great at monetizing. Maybe it's something where we had an overly simplistic portfolio, or where we were not offering services in the most profitable possible way. And we're saying, hey, look, services is going to be a key part of your revenue going forward. And again, many companies are, and I'll show you in a minute, are now moving to 30, 40, 50, 60% of total revenue coming from service offers. And so we think about these three main buckets, right? So how can I use smart connected products and telemetry data to improve the efficiency of my existing services? Secondly, how can I move up the stack, take more responsibility for making sure that my customer is getting full value for the products through things like preventative and maintenance, remote resolution, and so forth, improving the response times and resolution times for the customers, and ultimately potentially even moving over into pricing models where the customer is paying for uptime, paying for consumption, paying for business results. And so this journey is a very, very challenging journey and really requires companies to bring on new business capabilities and digital capabilities that are going to empower them throughout this. So if you think about these phases, right, so we have to do a better job of monetizing services. We have to stop thinking of services as just being warranty, or services being just break fix things that we give away, right? So we have to really establish a culture of services inside the company, empower sales to talk in a very convincing and proactive way about services, make sure we've got strong value propositions, and that we have got services that really offer tangible value to our customers that they want to attach to every product that they buy from you. The second is we have got to get better at, basically our go-to-market around services. We've got to make sure that we're embedding service capabilities into products, that we're both our direct sales force and our channel is really effective at selling services. We've got to make sure that we are going out to the equipment that's in the field already and trying to figure out how to make those connected devices, even if they were not originally built in those ways. So we've really got to think broadly about this. And then ultimately, when you get good enough at this, you begin to offer something that customers love, which is basically to say, hey, we're going to take the risk out of you doing business with us because we're going to offer our solution to you as a service. You're going to pay for what you use. You're going to pay as you monetize the capabilities of our products. So we're going to align, what you pay us with how you get revenue from your customers. But to do that and to get good at that, we need these new capabilities, both digital and staffing capabilities, to empower those outcomes. There are, clear steps that we're seeing best practice companies going through, right? They're starting to think about where in their portfolio they want to make the first moves on this journey. They're starting to think about what it would be like if the assets did not transfer to the customer's balance sheet, but rather they stayed on our balance sheet and we monetize them as a service over a period of time. Number three, they're prioritizing telemetry data. They're making sure that every device is a connected device, that it is yielding the kind of data and insight that is necessary for us to be able to engage in these services. As I mentioned, they're really developing and thinking through these offers, what are the portfolio solutions that we have the courage to begin to offer, and thinking about evolving that year after year to the point where they're actually doing as a service offers around their solutions. And as I mentioned, really getting active in trying to switch out the legacy equipment in customers to the new connected devices, which empower these service-based business models. We are seeing clear evidence of the evolution of, manufacturers' portfolios. They are moving on this journey from product attached services, the kind of standard implementation, installation, maintenance services that you might have seen in the past, moving into much more sophisticated services that are not only creating new revenue streams and new profit streams, but are getting them closer to the day where they can begin to offer their products wrapped in an as-a-service solution. The data is very clear, right? As we look at manufacturing companies, we are seeing more and more and more of them. If you look at the bottom axis of this, where they are having more and more percentage of total revenues coming from services. Many of these companies moving toward 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% of total revenue coming from services and getting better at driving up the gross margins. This is not just something we're seeing in traditional sort of IT companies, but we're seeing across many manufacturing sectors globally. And I think that the question that everybody faces is, am I going to be in a race, right? Whether it's my existing competitors or whether it's high-tech companies who are moving into our market. We know that customers love these new advanced service offers. And the question is, who's going to get there first in your sector? And it is really about business and technology capabilities, right? Do you have the capabilities to drive these service business models that generate great customer experiences, generate alternatives to how customers can buy and consume your value, and to help you build recurring revenues, which are the most prized kinds of revenues from a standpoint of the investment community. So it is an important journey. It's a journey we're seeing companies go on in sector after sector, and one that we hope your company will succeed at because you have aggressively moved in this digital transformation world and developed the capabilities and offers that we see being the winning ones for next generation business models. Thank you all. We wish you all the luck in the journey. And we're sure that you're going to be one of those winners coming out the other side. Thank you. I'm delighted to have a great guest to discuss a lot of the trends that are happening that are affecting manufacturing companies globally. So I'm here to welcome Ines Taverniers, who is the business controller at Melexis. In Belgium, they're a publicly traded 500 million euro provider of microelectronic semiconductor solutions, a business that is growing, facing, I think, a lot of the trends that we've already discussed here this morning, as well as just the need to really progress through this digital transformation journey. So Ines, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me to this great event.
Well, we're all anxious to hear a little bit about the company and about you, and then I've got a few questions to talk about some recent things you've been doing in your digital transformation journey. So could you introduce yourself and the company a little bit?
Yes, so as mentioned, I'm Ines Taverniers, the business controller. I work for Melexis, which is, as you already mentioned, a global supplier of microelectronic semiconductor solutions. So the majority of our revenue comes from the automotive industry, but we also try to focus on other areas such as medical and industrial and consumer sectors. We have been supplying ICs for over 30 years now. And we do this with 1,500 employees in 15 countries with 20 branches. So as an engineering company, innovation is really crucial to stay competitive and to remain a player of importance in the industry. So my role from a functional perspective is business controller, but my presence here today has more to do with my role as a project lead for the CPQ implementation we recently managed to successfully close within Melexis.
That's great. You know, one of the things we talk about a lot is that, you know, digital transformation it seems like a lifetime journey, right? It is really about having the business capabilities that you need to take advantage of the trends in the industry and competitive, you know, pressures and so forth. And you know, that digital transformation journey really affects all parts of the company. You mentioned CPQ, which is, you know, really a critical business capability, I think, for many reasons. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about what were some of the factors that influenced Melexis to make this investment in, not just in CPQ, but in sales transformation more broadly.
Yes, as you mentioned, the automation and the digital transformation, it will never stop. You always want to improve. Things are also changing every day, and you need to deal with that, to cope with. And then on the one hand, deal with the current themes and issues, but also take into account the challenges of tomorrow. And as you mentioned, in automotive, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know yet exactly what the future brings. And as in automotive as well, 10 years is nothing. So we really need to think really good ahead and plan ahead. And therefore we come up with a strategical plan wherever we can still, in an agile way make some changes here and there. So I think this really strategic plan with the ability to change and to pivot whatever you want is really crucial for a company as Melexis.
And specific to CPQ, I mean, what capabilities do you believe this is going to enable you? I mean, obviously it's about, you know, faster and better pricing. But I mean, you know, as you think about, you know, how this is going to benefit the company, can you give me a couple of the sort of major drivers, the few things you'd really like to see come out of this particular project?
Yes, so from what the main reason to start this project was, of course, to play into the key pains of our internal customer, if we call our business creation community. So, and their key pains were having lack with decent administration and follow up with the quotes, to have really the integration to the order management process, and also to the CRM system. I think really that the integration part is key, not only in this project, but also to future projects and implementation going forward. Also, like in COVID times, even more, the communication part is also crucial. Instead of just calling, it's really finding a good way, and therefore CPQ was a nice tool to play into this communication part, and really to have the administration at the same time to really registrate the approval levels much better.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. We talk a lot about you know, this emergence of the customer experience, and a lot of people, when they hear customer experience, they think about, you know, consumer customer experience,
Yeah.
right? But customer experience is absolutely a real thing in B2B. And you know, and I'm sure that your business creation community is trying, you know, not only to make sure that they can, you know, they can price profitably, but also, you know, as you said, to really improve your responsiveness to customers, right? To make sure that, you know, I mean, again, in a perfect world, you're able to be both responsive to the customer and, you know, and accurate and thorough in your pricing. You can't really give on either one of those, right? You need both to have a responsive sales force, and you need to make sure, because I would imagine you're living with these prices for a long time, right? So can you talk a little bit about, those two factors of improving the customer experience, as well as, making sure that the integrity of pricing in a complex, as you said, a complex world like automotive, how these two things are being affected by your CPQ transformation?
Yeah, so of course, having a real customer, making a real customer happy and serving them at the best way possible is crucial. Of course, this is for every customer, but I mean, the internal efficiency can only also make that happen. It goes, as you said, hand in hand. The CPQ project was not only about internal, but also about this distribution users. So that also helped them a lot in having a faster growth and a better efficiency. So that already was an improving factor towards our distribution community. So this is really of course, it's too soon to measure the increased lead time, as I can call it, for the quotation, but I'm sure it will help, and the accurate price setting and moving towards the order administration will improve, and that will improve our support to our customers in the end as well. So you cannot see it aside from each other there, no.
And you were saying, in the automotive business, 10 years is nothing, right? And and therefore, when you make commitments to your customers, they, I'm sure they are well in advance of maybe even the final provision of the products to the customer. But that they are also fairly long-term commitments, because they need to know, what the price of their BOM is going to be.
Yes.
Well in advance. So I can imagine that pricing for you is a super important thing.
Yes, because we also give prices for products which we still need to develop, of course,
Right.
and our development time is more or less 2 years. So indeed, those long-term commitments need to be put in place, and therefore I said the early notification factors, that it's not just a Word document somewhere floating around, but we really have it embedded in a system and be able to follow it up all those years is really helping a lot on the visibility, of course.
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying, I mean, businesses constantly have to evaluate the capabilities that they have and the capabilities that they don't have, right? That they're going to need for the future. And as you said, it's a sort of a never-ending journey, right? I mean, you can always improve, and you can always digitally improve. And it's very important to have partners who, solution partners who understand, the challenges of these industries. And one of the things that, I mean, we have to cover this topic of 2020, because it was so interesting in terms of how businesses managed through this last year. Because on the one hand, there was a lot of economic uncertainty, and there were some projects that sort of got put on hold with some companies who were involved in digital transformation. And then there were others that the last year made them realize they needed to accelerate in certain areas. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges of 2020 from Melexis?
Yes, so for this particular project, we started the whole implementation exactly in the start of the whole pandemic. So it was in the beginning a bit like hesitating whether we should commit and start with it, yes, or we should wait. But then we realized, yeah, we should go for it now. We did the whole requirements. It's now or never, to say it like that. But I mean, waiting is no option. But during the project, it was really efficient to constantly work on it, not traveling. It was really, the focus remained. The only thing was that you should keep the teams efficient, because as long as you're in a really big teams, then yeah, it's of course more difficult from a virtual perspective. However, so for Melexis, in a broader sense, for the digital, yeah, we see more and more the communication stylist or CPQ as such became even more important, because your colleague is not sitting next to you to say like, yeah, it's okay, you have my approval. I mean, now they were forced from the beginning to register and to really follow all processes. So in the end, it really improved even the journey of this and the adoption of this tool.
Yeah, I give you a lot of credit. I mean, there are a lot of, a lot of data points out there that suggest that, COVID just really accelerated a lot of business model transformations that were already underway. And, there are some companies who hesitated, right? They said, now is not the right time to invest. Now is not the right time to go, through transformation. And those companies who didn't make a move, now as things come back to normal, they're competitively disadvantaged over companies who did. So I give you a lot of credit for not sitting on the sidelines once you saw what was happening, but plowing ahead with the project. And now you have got these new digital capabilities that you didn't have a year ago.
Yes, correct. So we are also very happy we jumped into it, but it was as every time with Melexis, whenever we face some difficulties, then is the time to react. So we did that before to make some challenging decisions, but it has proven to be right. Yes.
The journey you've been on, which is, part of a, I'm sure a broader sort of sales and service transformation journey. What advice or insight could you share with us about, about making these projects successful? And as you look back, what might you have done differently in this implementation?
So for every process, I mean, the preparation step is crucial. We really spend a lot of time preparing for this. The whole requirement phase is of course crucial. People tend to rush into it, which is not such a good idea, because yeah, it's really the foundation from everything. So, and also what is not underestimable is I mean, it's not just the tool, it's always also touching data, processes, and organization. All those factors really should go hand in hand. And then also super crucial is to communicate that through all levels of people involved, from C-level to really key administrators, key data. So this communication, you spend a lot of time, but from an adoption perspective, it's crucial to do that and to really spend a lot of time on it. From the requirement phase, still really the support on the going live.
One of the things that that we talk a lot about at TSIA is the need for suppliers to play a more proactive role in helping customers succeed with their solutions. And there are some suppliers who just like to sell product and take off. And then there are others that that really, because you mentioned there are a lot of success factors in a project like this. And when you work with a company like Oracle, who's been through many of these implementations, they can be in a position to really do things like you said, right? You've got to manage expectations up and down the organization in this, around time frames and costs and challenges that you're likely to face. And do you feel like you got that kind of help?
Yes, from the start. I mean, you really got a heads up on what was coming. Of course, it's a bit different for every sector and the kind of requirements and expectations you have. But yes, the support was there from the beginning till the end when in the success story there.
Where does Melexis go from here in terms of sort of, evolving the transformation process that you've begun, and where are the sort of next opportunities for you to advance your digital transformation?
Yeah, for sure. It will not stop. It never stops, in my opinion. So, but with respect to the sales and business growth and automation, we want to go further, especially in the integration, which is it's difficult because till now luckily we already have global implementation, which is not for every company there. So this is already a good step, the global optimization versus the local, which sounds obvious, but it's not always. And now we really want to grow further in integrated reporting and really to have this BI there, and to not go from the big data just from a reporting perspective, but also from really wisdom and not just a data anymore. You really need to give our C-level people information, which is not just data, and that's really a big step to have this translation from big data to actionable items. This is a huge challenge. I don't think not only for us, but for everyone.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the word agility is a kind of an overused word, but the reality is that technology is allowing or forcing businesses to constantly change, to constantly innovate, and that means more projects, faster projects. Hey, listen, and as it was great to meet you, great to speak with you. Melexis is really on an exciting journey, and I wish you all the best in the next stage of your transformation.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Well, I'm back. And what I really want to spend the next 10 minutes or so on is the future of service management for manufacturing. One of the things I want to do is slip this little quote in here, and it just grabbed my attention because so many of the customers we've talked to during this economic times, especially coming out of the pandemic, have actually accelerated their digital transformation in service. And it's amazing. Some have talked about really moving from what would have taken them 2 or 3 years in 1 year because of this impending event. And I feel like that's capable and available to everybody out there. So I hope you feel the urgency and the energy, because the faster we transform, especially in service, the better business outcomes that we're going to have going forward and really put you in a competitive advantage. So first of all, let's talk about what's happening here. And we're really moving from a very transactional service-based business to packaging up solutions. These contracts are usually longer, 5 years, 6 years, but now we're moving to business outcomes. And these business outcomes can be consumption models or as a service model, but really packaging all the capabilities we've acquired over the past 5 or 10 years into a solution, easy consumable solution for our customers. And what is that doing? That is really driving the new streams of revenue and profitability for our customers, as well as it's also creating long-term or lifetime customers. But the hook here is the service organization. The service you're providing your customers has to dramatically transform to support these business models. And not only that, we need to provide a digital experience because we need to move from high touch to low touch to no touch digital experiences. But as we go from what's traditionally known as kind of this break, fix, reactive, the service has a problem, the customer has a problem, they put it into a portal, it comes to you and you send technicians out, or it comes into a repair depot, to really a more preventative strategy, because these companies depend on you to keep this new solution up and running. And more importantly, it costs you a fortune to continue to roll trucks out there. So if we can do it before and prevent it, that's huge. But more importantly, we need to move to predictive models. There is no reason that leveraging AI and IoT and some of the cool capabilities that are out there today, that we can't monitor these assets for our customers, provide that value-added service, but more importantly, sense and see that these assets are going to go down. And if they go down, we need to get someone out there as quick as possible before they go down, because if they go down, we lose money because it's business outcome based. Let's talk about where we're starting from. Most of the customers we're working with today look something like this, or have 3 or 4 or 5 of these. And now we need to say, how are we going to transform not just the services organization that's going to drive the new wave of revenue and business outcomes, but most importantly, what we do with this technology landscape that we've kind of inherited over the last 3 years. Well, one of the things about Oracle is we do have a platform, and it does help the front office and back office from in the cloud. And there's a lot of business capabilities and agility that sits in our cloud capabilities, front office and back office. But more importantly, we need to take a process-driven approach here, because if you look at the service process and you need to digitize it, but have many different channels kicking off anywhere in the process, whether it's a customer, whether it's agents, whether it's dealers, distributors, or an asset kicking off the service process, it needs to be a digital first set of processes and capabilities. But more importantly, it's driven from the platform. The platform is where your business agility and intelligence is going to come from. So we need to move as much of these complex processes onto this platform, and then standardize on the different businesses that we've acquired in terms of the business processes to support that. So an 80-20 rule in terms of moving multiple businesses that acquired to a transformative digital service platform, and to standardize on break, fix, and preventative maintenance and IoT monitoring, and really get to that predictive service that we're looking for. And then, as we know, data is a critical success factor. We have to get our arms around the data, because we've got to tie together the customer and all the assets that they may have in terms of providing that overall business outcome-based service and solution for our customers. And then we got to take the IoT data, and then we're going to enrich that data, and then we're going to drive that off of AI through the platform to deliver the business outcomes we're looking for, but more importantly, a predictive digital service. And we have put together a solution for this to really help our manufacturers transform faster. And we can start anywhere we want to, based on your business outcomes, based on your business drivers, as well as we also know this is a hybrid world. And this is a 2 to 3 to 5 year transformation. And we want to partner with you to provide those capabilities for that platform, whether we deploy it regionally or one global single instance, and drive off those processes that's going to drive business outcomes. More importantly, we have business models for this now. The business models, as we put together these solutions on a project basis and help support you through this transformation, we have now put together the best practices of the business outcomes to ensure your success, and that these projects are really driving business value. Okay, so that gives you a few insights from an Oracle perspective on the future of manufacturing and the service transformation and how we can partner with you. But let's hear from our customers, because they have fantastic stories of their transformations. We're all sitting in different places in the journey, but gain some insights on how we may be able to accelerate our transformations within our companies. So we have some great customers coming up. First, Livingston from Zebra Technologies, as well as Badger Daylighting and Canon Medical. So let's go ahead and turn it over and kick off with Livingston from Zebra Technologies. Well, everybody, we have a special guest today. I couldn't think of a better person to describe their digital transformation as Livingston from Zebra. They've just done a phenomenal job over the last year or so, really doing a digital first strategy while their business models are changing to more of an as a service model. So let me welcome Livingston and let's have just a nice little chat with Livingston. I'm sure everyone is going to benefit from it. And we're going to really be energized when we hear his story. So first of all, Livingston, tell me about your company and the business model transformation over the past years and beyond.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everybody. I'm Livingston Hudson from Zebra Technologies. I'm responsible for architecting and delivering solutions on our sales, marketing, and e-commerce platforms. A little bit about Zebra. Zebra builds enterprise-class data identification and auto ID devices. If you watch closely, you will find our devices in use every day. The barcodes on products, scanners at your checkout, mobile devices confirming package delivery, RFID solutions that track the movement of players in the NFL, and the list goes on. Our devices are being used to power the e-commerce revolution that's taking place today as a result of the pandemic. In healthcare, our solutions are being used with COVID testing, enabling alternative care sites, proximity tracking, and so on. As smaller businesses move towards e-commerce, there's increasing demand for easier, less capital-intensive ways to buy from Zebra. Zebra has also acquired some smaller software companies over the last year. The software works closely with our device data, like scanners and mobile computing devices. And we have devices that help detect fraud and theft prevention and so on. And these solutions are best sold as a service offerings. And this is the big change that's happening in Zebra today, a transformation towards selling our solutions as in an as a service model. So that's where we are right now.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's a huge change from where you were 2, 3, 4 years ago. So with this new business model, tell me about your digital first strategy for your customers, your end users, as well as your resellers.
Zebra acquired Motorola's enterprise solution business back in 2014, and we integrated our applications very well. But at the same time, bringing various legacy systems together meant that our data was dispersed in different systems, our user experience was poor, and our older systems were riddled with performance issues. We went through an RFP process with Oracle, and they were the right vendor to help us with this transformation. And we implemented Oracle Commerce Cloud, Oracle CPQ to transform our e-commerce platform. We also implemented Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse and a few other solutions to augment our reporting capabilities. We are also in the process of piloting and using Oracle Subscription Cloud and Revenue Management Cloud right now to sell subscriptions. So I would actually like to play a small video we made to show you how we've actually used Oracle to transform our IT systems.
Yeah, that'll be fantastic. We'll play that video now. And thank you very much for putting that together and showing our customers really the work that you've done.
I'm going to talk about how we actually transformed our experience in Zebra. We implemented Oracle Commerce Cloud, which you can see here is our product catalog. You can browse through various categories or use some of our guided selling options. We can go through our product catalog into various categories. We can use the different faceted searches to narrow down on selections. or you can go straight into a model page and look at all the information presented in one single page. Now, we used to have all these resources in several different areas in the past. They've all been consolidated into one single page where you can see all the product collateral, the images, the videos, and all the part numbers, the pricing, whether you're eligible in a certain country or not, and also the different cross-sell and upsell options. We also have our configurator on the same page. The configurator allows us to choose different options and configure your product. At the same time, it pre-selects certain attributes so that it's making your selection easier for you. You can see that it's added some of our service options automatically as the recommended products. There is also guided selling capability, ask certain questions and guide the business on what type of SKU they should be purchasing from us. You can directly add all of these to the shopping cart and just check out and complete your flow. Then clicking on checkout. This is the shopping cart. There is a header section where you can change your bill to ship to addresses, your ship methods, put your purchase order numbers and things like that. You are also allowed to enter price concessions and promotions. As you can see, you have the estimated ship dates and the warehouse that these items ship from. Once all of this is complete, you just have to go and click on submit order, and this in turn will submit the order and send an order acknowledgement to the contact. Once you have completed placing your orders, then you need to track how your orders are, and that's where you use the order dashboard. The order dashboard is used to look for your booked orders, your open orders, shipped orders, invoiced orders, or serial numbers. In general, you can also look at all other order details from here. So if we were to open up the invoiced orders report, you can see that there are the order numbers all listed here, and irrespective of the channel in which they are ordered, they all show up here, and you can click on the invoice number link and it will actually take you to the actual invoice that is displayed here. Similarly, we also have the shipped orders report. The shipped orders report shows your tracking numbers. At this stage, we embarked on our next major transformation, which was to implement subscriptions in Revenue Management Cloud. Zebra had acquired some software companies, and we were also selling some of our own software solutions that work very closely with our hardware. It was important to sell these as SaaS subscriptions. In order to enable this capability, we embarked on a pilot to take some of our offerings, such as our Workforce Connect software, and transform them into subscriptions. We transformed these into subscriptions. In order to implement subscriptions, we had to make sure that our backend systems were able to handle subscription billing and the revenue management that went with subscriptions. We had to follow the ASC 606 standards. We were able to get subscription management implemented. We were able to tie that with our CPQ and help sell the subscription offer. This helped us come up with more billing options and consumption-based pricing and so on. We were able to successfully get the subscriptions into Oracle's subscription cloud software and also into the revenue management cloud. This helped us with making sure that we had the foundations ready for a much larger rollout, which we are in the process of going through right now. So as you can see, subscription management taking care of our activation fees, our consumption fee for overages, and our monthly subscription fees, and making sure that all of these get invoiced and billed correctly. Oracle had pre-built integrations for all of these, and thus made our life a lot easier. And we are very excited to continue our journey with expanding the footprint to sell devices as services, and also transforming our back office ERP and moving to more of the Oracle Cloud Platform. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that video. That clearly is a digital first strategy. So tell me a little bit about some of the business benefits and then some of the lessons learned along the way.
So selling subscriptions for us required a huge mind shift, not just for our IT applications, but more so for our business and our business strategy. It's given us the art of the possible when it comes to selling subscriptions. We're able to bundle hardware, software, services, and professional services all together, and go to market with some amazing offerings. But at the same time, as creative as we are with the front office strategy and the go-to-market strategy, the systems in the back office should be able to take care of all these complexities. And one of the few things that we learned as a result of this was it needed a huge business transformation. How do we compensate our partners in a subscription model? That was new. How do we use usage-based or consumption-based billing appropriately? That was new. And again, revenue recognition in the financial systems becomes critical. Adopting to standards like ASC 606 and making sure that you set the right rules in place are all very important in this context. And one more area was sales compensation, where we had to adjust our strategy accordingly to make sure that it worked for our salespeople as well.
Wow, thank you very much for sharing your story. Sounds like you're well on your way. You're a great example for our customers to learn from and to be able to showcase this transformation. I'm sure you're on your way to new business revenue as well as profits. So thank you very much for spending time with us today, Livingston. We greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure.
Well, I tell you what, this is a great seminar so far today. I'm really excited about the next discussion area, which is redefining service with Badger Daylighting and Canon Medical. And we have two great examples of service transformation, starting with Paul Parsons, the Director of Service from Canon Medical, as well as Pradeep, VP of IT Strategy at Badger Daylighting. And these are two great examples of transformation around service and really providing that digital experience to the customer. So thank you very much for participating, Paul and Pradeep. So let me start with Paul. Paul, what challenges did your business face in 2020?
Thank you, Scott. Well, 2020, I think for most of us, will be a year to remember in many ways. Canon Medical, as you may be aware, are very much in healthcare providers. We provide high-end diagnostic equipment to the healthcare provision, and was very much, some of our portfolio products were very much critical care equipment to fight COVID-19. So you can understand that actually our participation last year is accelerated where we needed to be as an organization. For us, we needed to be seen not just participating in supporting the pandemic, but actually trying to get across to our customers a level of superior service support to bring down those stress levels for those healthcare workers. Anxiety was a major thing in those early days, not only with our customers, but also for our internal staff. So for us, it's how we could manage continuing to support our customers when our own staff were nervous going into hospital environments, but also give the reassurances to our end users that we were on top of our game, that we understood the strains and pressures in that environment. And most importantly, we gave a reassurance that our service delivery would continue as it did pre-pandemic, Scott. So for us, I think it's accelerated us and matured us probably 3 or 4 years in that 1 year to make sure that we really understand the dynamics of this kind of industry and how, as a provider of high-end diagnostic equipment to healthcare, how we need to be on top of our game at all times, 7 days a week.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's fantastic. So Pradeep, let me ask you the same question. What challenges did your business face in 2020?
Thanks, Scott. I think it's twofold for us. We completed our digital transformation end of 2019, going into 2020, and then got hit by pandemic. So we are dealing with go lives and post go lives and stabilization after the big transformation of the implementing the end-to-end ERP, and at the same time moving everybody into the digital world, working remotely. And we as a Badgers Daylighting is an essential service, help utilities and construction. So we cannot stop doing our business in the field. So supporting that, it's a lot of challenges, but I think having this digital capabilities, Oracle on the cloud, and the SaaS as a service helped us to kind of continue the business without interruption. At the same time, doing the business safely. Example being making sure we're not physically interacting with the customers, but using our devices to get those communications going, right? We need to do that on the fly so that we can continue our business. So there's a lot of challenges around that and how we dealt with and really accelerated all our transformation in a brisk pace. But it's a humongous challenges in terms of getting the business up and running the way we want to and service our customers.
Wow, that's really exciting. In a very sad time, it was exciting you were able to accelerate this. So back to you, Paul. What changes have you implemented? And then could you elaborate on the customer experience and where Canon Medical is going?
Thank you, Scott. Yes, I think, we've listened to Pradeep. I think we're not as far down the digitization route as many organizations. In the past, Scott, we have reflected more on a relationship type of transaction with our customers and putting that personal touch. But what we saw through last year and early this year, that actually customers just want their resolution quicker and on time. So some of the things that we've implemented so far, in fact, it may sound very strange, but we've almost stepped back a pace, I would say, Scott. The most important thing for me and the team was actually identifying what our customers want. What are their needs? What are their expectations? And I think we thought we understood it prior to the pandemic, but we didn't fully understand it, nor did we need to be fair. So I think that understanding what our customer needs. So very much about remote maintenance. We've moved a lot of our services to a remote base, and that's dialing into the equipment. Predictive maintenance, very much to make sure that unplanned downtime is not a factor in a customer care and healthcare predicament. A lot more in self-serve. So we've created a lot more self-training videos. So where you have users that are not that familiar with our complex equipment, they can log on and look at a tutorial, and that then restricts or reduces the need for an engineer or an applications team to visit site and do on-site training. So everything is about moving us from more of a sort of reacting to these customers' issues to much more about preemptive customer service and predictive customer service. So remote diagnostic software, alerts, and as an organization, much more focus in that predictive work. So that's really what has transformed us over the last 9 to 12 months for sure.
Well, that sounds excellent, Paul. I wouldn't be ashamed of that. I think you've done a really, really good job there because I think this acceleration really benefits your customers. And we see a lot of this is moving to more of a contactless service environment and much more predictive. We talked a lot about that earlier in today's session. So let me turn it back to you, Pradeep. What changes have you implemented, as well as what's the new experience for your customer?
From the changes standpoint, it's a change both from the internal and as well as external, right? Because once we do the big digital transformation, now we have a lot of things that we digitized and organized from the data perspective, from the operations and the rollout perspective. But at the same time, from the external customer standpoint, they are getting these digital services where they can do a signature on the iPad, right? Now we have an acknowledgement from the customer the service was provided. At the same time, we need to make sure that that information is flowing to the customer back and forth so that we can get that demand from the business and a timely manner so that we can shore up our resources internally. So if you look at it, the holistic digitization outcome is the data, right? So we can have all these data that we can collect and act on top of it. Getting a daily revenue report, getting a weekly revenue report is a bliss for the leadership team to make sure we make those decisions timely and swiftly so that it can help our revenue, right? So that's the foundation thing that we're able to do it very well, not only from the internal change standpoint, but also external customer facing and service standpoint.
Wow, I'm really glad you mentioned data because as we're working with our customers and they're just getting going in their transformation journey, especially around service, data is the last thing that most of our customers think about. And it's really, when you go to digital, there is no front office and back office, and there is no sales and service, right? Data is going to be the driver for your customers around contactless service, leveraging IoT, which Paul mentioned. And it's just great to hear how much progress you've made. But when it comes to the bottom line, Paul, what results have you seen in terms of customer loyalty or satisfaction, or maybe even better in your business?
I think it's many. I think, as Pradeep says, data is king at the moment, and I think understanding that customer journey and what channels they're wishing to use and are willing to use, Scott, is very important to us. This is not about pushing people into a channel that isn't right or appropriate. So it's understanding those channels and then reflective on that. So for us, it's very much about making sure that the answer to their query, for whatever way that is responded to effectively, quickly, and to be honest, at the lowest cost to us as well. So some of the results that we've seen, actually, we've seen a higher net promoter score from our customers, particularly after unplanned events like breakdowns of systems, where you would expect that the stress levels are so high that actually they're not happy that they've got a problem, but we're seeing increased net promoter scores. And on average, over the last 12 months since the pandemic, it's well into its 90% net promoter score, so that's really good. And actually, the most important thing for me, or equally as important, is an actually increase in our employee engagement. And we've just concluded an employee engagement. We're 92% engaged employees across all disciplines, and that's just not service, sales, applications, office, and field-based. And that's never been as high. So actually, what we've been allowed, or we've done, is making sure that actually we're engaging more with our field-based teams, that they feel involved and part of that decision making. So, and that adds to our customer experience in our view. Making sure that, for sure, as Prandeep said, having that intelligence, having that data for us to make intelligent decisions on what we want to do next. And I think that data is king to making sure that those decisions are right, and also a vision around where we want to be, not only in the next 6 months, 12 months, but longer vision in that. So actually, to answer your question, Scott, I think we're a much more resilient organization. We understand our business better, and we're engaging better with our customers and employees. So that sets a good foundation for us going forward, I feel.
Well, congratulations, you've done well. As you mentioned, you would think in a pandemic, those scores would drop significantly. And the fact that you were able to accelerate those, not just with the customers, but also with your employees, that's just a great feat. And I congratulate you for that. Now, Pradeep, what are the results from Badger? How have you improved different scores similar to what Paul was talking about?
Yeah, at Badgers, as Paul mentioned, we don't have the NPMS score yet, where we're working through that process now that we have the systems to go and reach out to them. My next call is about that, ironically, with the sales and marketing. So we are getting there, Scott, from the overall digitization standpoint. But what we're able to understand is what are the things that we can do better internally. Example, the area managers are now working on X percentage on administrative work, how we can automate that, how we can move it to a shared services kind of a process where they can go focus on working with the customers more closely now that we have the systems. We recently moved from iPads to Microsoft Surface Pro so that we can get better experience in terms of Oracle utilization on these and can better serve the customer, right? We're making the steps towards how we can interact with customers on the field right there so that we can serve them better, right? So we are working on those aspects of it and then start measuring about how the customers are reacting to our changes. But at this point in time, we're focusing on internal team to get better with the technology with the recent rollouts and equip the teams to go start using better and then go from there. So a lot of changes in our organization about how to support those teams on the field and get the better customer experience. That's where we are now at this point in time.
Pradeep and Paul, thank you very much. I knew you were great examples, but you guys really delivered today. And the fact that you can accelerate your business, getting to know your customers better and improve your business during a pandemic is great examples for all of us. Paul, can you wrap up this session with the amazing chart you showed us in terms of what your long-term transformation goals are?
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I put this down really as a more of a pictorial view for us as a group to understand our longer term objectives. In the past, we were trying to optimize our channel strategy, but actually, the business needs to be able to push customers into that digital first. It really is a 24-hour, 7 days a week opportunity for us to give better support to our customers, reduce cost, and hopefully improve that customer experience. Where we do have live interaction, and I'm a great believer of that, will be around for many years to come. I hope so, because I think that is what we're about, is rather than just being empathetic, that actually we need to be a bit more prescriptive. We've got to be telling our customers what they need to do. We've got to some degree, take more charge of the event or the problem. And the rest you can see, the service goal for sure. It's about not just about deflection. For us, it's channel stickiness. How easy is it for a customer to move from us to a competitor? But actually, they need to see the value that we bring, and we've got to demonstrate that value. And it's not just value in dollars or pounds or euros. Its value is, can they use that equipment more effectively after our intervention than they did before? And then that drives confidence. Where we see confidence, we see repeat business, we see increased revenues, we see better profitability. So that for us is a massive measure for us. And lastly, that engagement, as I've said all along, it's about not being a reactive organization that's too costly and actually is difficult to manage, being prescriptive, preemptive, and making sure we're ahead of the problems, and therefore our customer levels of satisfaction, NPS, improves, hopefully significantly.
Paul and Pradeep, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate you spending time with us today. I know our audience has learned a lot. You're shining examples of what looked like a dark time and how you're able to improve your business, and more importantly, accelerate your transformation service for your customers. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Well, that was a great session. I found it so interesting to hear from all these diverse companies that are going through such an impressive digital transformation journey. I mean, you think about companies like Melexis and Zebra and Badger and Canon Medical. There are so many sectors that are in the process of digitally transforming to service-based business models, thinking about transforming their go-to-market. It is a fascinating time, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I want to thank Scott and the whole Oracle team for pulling together this great list of people and companies. I am sure you feel the same way. I am anxious to hear and see how these transformations play out for these companies, and hope to hear from them, a year or two from now, see what those lessons learned have been. But it's been very insightful. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I did. And again, I want to thank you for your time and thank the Oracle team for pulling together this great session. Thank you and have a great day.